How's it going on this wonderful blistery winter night here in the East Coast? Mooncutter Sportscast fans, we're in for a special treat tonight because I'm being joined by our good friend and a media reporter for the Philadelphia Flyers. You know him better as the host of the Frank the Tank podcast. Let's welcome Frankie James to the stream. How's it going, my friend?
Geoffrey, what's going on? Thanks for having me be a part of this. And it is blistering cold out here. Obviously, we're both on the East Coast. You're on the
Well, I'd say Pittsburgh's probably more Rust Belt, but yeah, we're still pretty far over there.
It's still cold as shit.
Oh, you ain't kidding.
Thanks for having me on, brother.
Oh, of course. We talking about going into the history of of what is frequently regarded as the most intense rivalry in hockey. I couldn't think of anybody better to have on for this.
Oh, I appreciate that. Appreciate that. And it's a good point because it really is. It's probably one of my favorite rivals behind. I mean, I love the Yankees Red Sox rival. Penn State, obviously, we are against Ohio State's one of my favorites, but the Flyers Pens rival has to be one of my all-time favorite ones. Being able to watch them play for as long as I have and how they do battle is just something incredible. It's intense, it's been intense, and it's only gotten better as the more competitive and that's one of the things about rivals, Geoffrey, is you have to stay competitive with the team or the rival dies. Look at look at Penn State versus Pitt. That was a huge rival for so long. And then Pitt, Pittsburgh University of Pitt, they kind of started to, get it handled a little bit by Penn State. So the rivalry kind of died off. You have to stay competitive in order to keep that rivalry alive. And, it's still there, but obviously, one of the two teams hasn't been as competitive in the last couple of years.
Which is giving the team that's been less competitive in the long run a chance to close the gap some.
It definitely does give them the help, though. I'll tell you that.
But do we want to go into a quick rundown of the current standings for this year first before we go into the? All right. So, starting with the Central, I unfortunately this is the one part of the background that I've gotten that I did not get a chance to type out. So I'm just going to do this verbally.
Well, let's do it.
Starting in the Central, at the bottom of the heap, you got the 7-19-4 Blackhawks. Moving up, you got the 10-15-5 Coyotes, 13-13-4 Predators, 16-16-1 Blues, 17-11-2 for 36-point Avalanche, 18-11-2 for 38-point Wild, 21-10-1 for a point of 43 Jets, and leading the division, you got the 19-8-6 with 44-point Dallas Stars.
The Dallas Stars are an incredible, just a great team. They've only gotten better as years going on. Like the last couple of years, they have gotten better. The one team I'm really surprised about is the fact that the Coyotes actually are beating the Blackhawks in the division because Blackhawks still have some good talent, and Coyotes, they're just it's just a shit show over there. I mean, they're playing at ASU for Christ's sakes.
Yeah, I mean, they don't even have their own stadium. They're playing at a local college,
which is kind of cool.
5 years.
Have to get out there sometimes.
I would imagine tickets would probably be pretty cheap.
Yeah, it probably comes with a hot dog and a brew.
Well, they might not even let you have the brew in the college stadium.
This is a good point, actually. We'll have to look into that. I know Penn State doesn't do it.
But no, the biggest surprise for me is definitely the Stars with how great they're doing this year. That Justin Robertson has really been carrying that team on his back a lot with the fact that when was the last time you've seen a Stars player in the top 5 for scoring?
Not since, the Hatcher, Joe Newendike days, Marty Turco days, Mike Modano days. And I mean, realistically, it probably goes back that far.
So, yeah, they've been lighting it up. And the Avalanche, they're still in the picture. They're defending Stanley Cup champions. But
yeah, I always wondered about them because, they're obviously the Cup champions, and and I'll give you my prediction because I actually don't have them back in the Cup this year. I like the Avalanche. I think anything can happen, especially when you get in the playoffs. They're going to get in the playoffs, and they're definitely going to compete. they gave up their goaltender. They lost Kadri this year. They lost a couple of big pieces, and what's more surprised, I'm surprised they gave up Darcy Kemper, who now the Washington Capitals have, because it's crazy when you see stuff like that. Like you have a goaltender who just won you the Stanley Cup, and you move on from him. It's almost like when the Washington Capitals had their head coach, Barry Trotz, who won them a Stanley Cup, and he was gone the next year. I always wondered why teams do that. Move on. You essentially want to keep the core together, especially your goaltender.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I know Pittsburgh to this point still wants to yell at who was it at that point? Or GM, was it Johnson? GM Johnson or
Yeah, I believe it was. I referring to letting go Marc-Andre Fleury.
I can't remember if it was the short-lived Johnson or if it was Rutherford that moved him away. But
you guys had incredible goaltending for a long time, though. I mean, you guys still were able to win a cup with Murray, who was another incredible goaltender. Like, it's crazy seeing teams with just incredible goaltending. Like, it took so long for the Flyers, and we'll dive into it more later on about the goaltending situation. And you look at teams like the New York Rangers. You had Henrik Lundqvist for years, and now look what you have in Shesterkin. It might be better, maybe better than Lundqvist at the end of the day.
Honestly, I think the greatest move from dominant goalie to dominant goalie that I've seen was Boston, moving on from Tim Thomas. To Tuukka Rask.
Yeah, another really good one. Tim Thomas was incredible. You could even go back to like Detroit when Detroit had like Chris Osgood and they got Dominic Hasek.
Oh God.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, that was another one. Two great goaltenders. I mean, they both won cups, I believe. I mean, Osgood definitely won a cup. And then you got Dominator and the Manny Legacy.
All right, moving on to the Pacific. We got the last place Ducks 9-21-3 for 21. The Sharks 10-18-6 for 26. The Canucks 13-15-3 for 29. Flames 15-12-6 for 36. Oilers 17-14-2 for 36. Kraken 18-10-3 for 39. Kings 18-12-5 for 41. And the Golden Knights 22-11-1 for 45. And there are two big surprises. Well, one that's a big surprise for me in this division.
I think that the Kraken being in the top three is extremely surprising. They're playing some good hockey right now, and also the Edmonton Oilers, I expect them to be a little bit higher. This is a really, really interesting division because Golden Knights, I didn't expect them to be at the top, but they are there. I expected the Oilers probably to be way better than they would be. Flames might have gotten better in the offseason, even with letting go to Chuck and Gaudreau. Really, really interesting division standings, and they are pretty close in the top 4 or 5. I mean, they're still within 9 points, which is only a few games essentially. It's still early in. We're getting close to the halfway point, but the Kraken being top 3, 18-10. Wow, really, really impressive.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that one. The Kraken being the surprise for me, because looking at how bad, well, I hate to say it, but how bad they sucked last year, they've definitely turned it around in their second year.
Crazy because they haven't. I mean, they got this steal and hot take and cupcake. That's definitely my hot take, that they got his steal in drafted right at number 4. I mean, he was a number 1 prospect, and the crazy thing is he hasn't even played all year. He's had he's been with them and he's done. I mean, it's almost like you can't even really say because you haven't seen too much, but the Kraken are playing together. They're playing well together. Maybe that has something to do with Dave Haxtell. Who knows? Highly doubt it. And I can speak from experience.
Who, the Hextall?
Haxtell. Well, the former Flyers head coach, Dave Haxtell, is now the coach of the Kraken.
Oh.
He coached.
Sorry, I thought you said Hextall.
Yeah, no, you guys have Haxtell.
Yeah, and he and I have a love-hate relationship with what he's done so far.
And we'll be able to dive into it, and I'll give you my take on him, and you can give me yours.
But the to touch on what you'd mentioned before about the Oilers, I honestly think that it goes to show how much one key injury can make or break your season. I mean, they had, if I'm not mistaken, been at the top of this division prior to the Evander Kane almost losing his hand?
He's a player that really I liked for this team. He had a great playoff run last year.
Oh
He
yeah.
he had an incredible playoff run last year. They got a good deal with him, and he's a guy that you want out there. And like you said, it was losing his hand, and now I don't want to say they seem lost, but they're not where they definitely need to be. I mean, they lost in overtime on Monday to the Preds, who, and then they lost to the Ducks before that. They're on a losing streak right now. They lost last win they had was December 13th. 6-3 against the Predators. Then they lost against the Blues in a shootout. Then they lost against the last place Ducks. Then the Preds, and now they play tonight at 9:30 against the first place Dallas Stars.
Yeah, I don't think they're winning that game.
Well, you never know. Flyers played Colorado Avalanche. I want to say 2 weeks ago. Won the first one, lost the second one. I mean, that's the way hockey is. You got to go out and play. But I'll tell you this right off the bat: I have, and I'll still support it. I have Oilers to get in the cup this year. I have the Oilers and the Rangers to be in the cup this year. And the reason why I say the Rangers is because I think the Rangers make a huge push to get Patrick Kane by the trade deadline. And if he goes there, they're going to be my cup favorite, 100%. I think that would be a really, really good cup to see them two in it. I think that after seeing the emergence of Connor McDavid last year in the playoffs, I mean, 13 games, 27 points in the playoffs. I don't quote me on that exact number, but he was incredible. And I talked a lot of crap on record saying like he doesn't show up in the playoffs, and then boom, he just showed up. I guess he heard me. Something got back to him. Adam probably told one of his reporter buddies, yo, Frankie's saying this. Shout out to Adam too. I love you, brother.
Oh yeah. Would have asked him to be a part of this, but he's still at work, and unfortunately, I got to work at 11. So his and my schedule tonight did not work out for this.
I'll have to catch up with him soon.
Anyways, moving on, I guess, to the Atlantic. 14-16-2 for 30, Ottawa Senators. 15-15-2 for 32, the Montreal Canadiens. 13-11-7 for 33, the Detroit Red Wings. 15-14-4 for 34, the Florida Panthers. 16-14-2 for 34, the Buffalo Sabres. 20-10-1 for 41, the Tampa Lightning. 27-6 for 46, the Toronto Maple Leafs. And leading that division, you've got at 25-4-2 for 52, the Boston Bruins.
Wow. My biggest surprise here is the Boston Bruins leading the division. And that's for the simple fact that they went into the season with monster injuries. You had Charlie McAvoy that was out. You had Brad Marchand that wasn't going to be playing. You had Krejci wasn't signed. Patrick Bergeron wasn't signed. You just weren't sure what was going to happen. You bring back Bergeron for the fill-in. You had to bring those guys back with the injuries. And now look, 31 games played, 25-4-2, leading the division by quite a few points. I'm really surprised to see them at the top. And to transition down, surprised to see the Senators at the bottom. I really thought
that was my takeaway in this division. Like, huh.
Yeah, really surprised because they you bring it to Chuck, you bring in Claude Giroux,
Alex DeBrincat.
You bring in Alex DeBrincat, who's an absolute stud. That's an incredible line right there. I don't know what is going on. I mean, even they're all having good years. Claude's having an absolute great year, and I'm really surprised to see them at the bottom. I had them getting in the playoffs this year, definitely. This is probably Claude's last contract. I don't see a cup in the future, sadly. But as a team whole, 14-16-2, 30 points sitting at the bottom. Quite disappointing. Right, very disappointing, actually.
Well, I wanted to point out, I'm looking here at the lines, the line arrangement on left wing lock. They actually have DeBrincat on the second line. They got Tkachuk and Giroux centered by Brassard.
Yeah, well, I mean, right there too. That's another big one because Brassard played not with Claude Giroux, and I think that's actually a little odd to have Brassard up there. I wonder why that is. Maybe a guy that can kind of fight for the puck, grittiness, get the puck open to Claude. But on the power play, you see obviously top guys on there. You don't. It's almost like you don't want to put too much superpower on one line, and then you have such a lack in difference between the other rest of the lines. So I get the move by putting the Brinket on the second line, but realistically, you got to. You got. I mean, it's not early enough, but you shoot a couple of wings together. They're only 4 points out of the fourth place spot. Who's the Sabres and the Panthers tied? You can string a couple wins together. You may be able to get it going, but almost halfway through the season, are they looking to be stay put or looking to bring in some more talent? Not really sure.
I'm not sure. The other surprise to me is what was the best team with the regular season, the best team in hockey last year. The Florida Panthers are currently sitting down at 5th.
It really this is a late division. I mean, hockey's just been pretty wild, it seems like, because a lot of the teams that you think are going to jump in there haven't really necessarily really done it. And yeah, the Panthers, 15-14, 33 points right there. It's still really tight. This is actually looks like one of the most tightest. The top, the top, you know, the bottom 4 or 5, right? They're right there. The battle and claw their way into the playoffs, like in hockey. Once you get in the playoffs, you just never know what could happen. But the Lightning sitting at third, never worry about them. The Maple Leafs, a team that I think we've all had an opinion on. They just can't get out of the first round. They can't get out of the second round. They almost lost to the Kings last year. The Kings barely got in. They got and Adam and I had talked about this on Ice Talk last year when we said, what are they going to do with that dual goaltending situation that they had? Because they originally had brought in 2 different goaltenders. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head who they were, but I was really surprised. I'm surprised to see them sitting at 2. But the difference: 52 points with the Bruins, 46 points with the Maple Leafs. It is starting to stretch. Bruins are probably going to run home with them. And not to mention, rumor has it of what we're hearing, upstairs, of course, is that the Bruins are also making a big push for Patrick Kane, which would be scary, very scary.
It would.
Yeah, well,
definitely. I will say the one thing that I like seeing in Toronto is the reemergence of Matt Murray. It seems like because during the remainder of his tenure in Pittsburgh after his father passed and during his stay up in Ottawa, he wasn't the same goaltender that got us 2 Stanley Cups by the end of his rookie year. And now looking at the numbers he's putting up, his save percent over the course of this season so far, it looks like Matt is back.
He looks incredible. I mean, a two-time goalie Stanley Cup winner, and goaltending and coming out of Pittsburgh has just been remarkable. Probably one of the top 3, realistically, with having Marc-Andre Fleury and having Matt Murray. Just success, success, success. And you're right, and it's tragic to even hear about what he went through. I can only imagine. I mean, obviously, people that know me know my relation, having a sick father, and then obviously everything that happened with him. Seeing him be able to continue to play and play at a high level. Those are the stories that win championships. And you've seen it before. And, is this the year? Is this the year Toronto does it? Do they get through the hump? Do they make it to the final? I'll tell you one thing, I'm looking forward to seeing it when that time comes, the playoff time. Always a good story to root for, you know what I mean? Like with Carey Price, and another incredible story about Carey Price when they made it to the finals and lost against Tampa. Everybody was pulling for Montreal. Everybody wanted to see Montreal do. One for Carey Price being a long-time tenure goaltender there. Sadly, he didn't get it. He never will, sadly, be able to get a Stanley Cup. But it's the stories sometimes behind the game, especially the game of hockey, that it's something to cheer for other than just the game.
Yeah. And then we got one more division before we get into the real fun.
Dum, dum, dum.
The Metropolitan. At the bottom of the heap, you got the Blue Jackets at 10, 20, and 2 for 22 points. 7th place. Sorry to say it, Frank, but your Philadelphia Flyers, 11, 15, and 7 with 29 points. 6th place Capitals, 17, 13, and 4 for 38. Tied with the Islanders, who have one game less played, who have a record of 18, 13, and 2. In fourth place, the New York Rangers, 18, 11, and 5 with 41 points. Third place, Penguins, 19, 9, and 4 for 42. Devils, 21, 9, and 2 for 44. And first place, 26 and 6 for 46, the Carolina Hurricanes.
Biggest surprise here is
You're going to say Flyers are as low as they are?
not at all. Not at all. I knew that this year was going to be a year of finding out what the youth is. They're sitting at the number 3 overall pick right now. They're the third worst team in the league. Um, I'm surprised the Rangers aren't higher. I'm not surprised I had Hurricanes 1, 2, maybe 3. Pens right there. I expected the Rangers to be much more better, not more better, of course, was probably proper English, but I expected them to succeed more proficiently the way that they have. The Devils and that streak is probably the biggest surprise for me. Capitals, the focus is Alexander Ovechkin. You always want to see them more competitive, but 17, 3, and 4, can't really complain too much about it. They'll probably maybe sneak in the playoffs, but the story there, we obviously know Alexander Ovechkin chasing greatness. Everybody sit back and enjoy it. You're watching something incredible. Let's hope that he breaks the record. Hurricanes, I always said, the best thing about the Carolina Hurricanes is their coaching. Their coaching has been incredible. It's only gotten better. Rod Brind'Amour has done one of the best jobs I've ever seen coaching a team. That's why this team is so good. They don't have that big flashy guy, that monster player. They play very well together. They're very well coached, and that's why they succeed. That's why they play so well together. And it's another team that I'd like to see get through the hump and get further in the playoffs. I'd love to see Rod Brind'Amour get a Stanley Cup as a coach. But that team is just incredibly coached, well coached, and I think that's a big reason why behind their success. The Devils with their streak, that just put them right there. I mean, you win that many games, and the only reason why they lost the game that they did lose to end the streak, 3 goals were taken off the board from them. And everybody remembers that because everybody threw beer bottles on the ice at the refs. Sadly. And we don't condone that here, obviously. But, people could be, Jersey's not too far from Philadelphia. It doesn't surprise me.
I don't know. The one thing that I find interesting about Carolina is their current head coach is a former team captain, and their current captain is the younger brother of the main captain in between that coach and himself.
Jordan Stahl. Yeah, you're referring to Jordan Stahl, who was an incredible player for the Penguins.
Yes,
Won
he
cups
was.
there. He was and we'll dive more into it. Those couple years of draft for the Pittsburgh Penguins, you had Sidney Crosby, you had Genny Malkin come, you had Jordan Stahl come. What
4 drafts in a row that our first round pick killed it for us, because you had what in 04 or 05, 05, or no, it was 04, Marc-Andre Fleury, 05, Sidney Crosby.
Genny?
Or wait,
you're right there. You're right there, give or take.
But in the 4 years, we took Fleury, Malkin, Crosby, Stahl. And the hilarious part about that is, even though we drafted Malkin first, then Crosby, Malkin didn't come around didn't actually get here until the year after Crosby because of
the lockout.
Because of him being contracted to KHL at the time still.
Yeah, I remember that. It was crazy because I think Ovechkin came in the year of the lockout, because that was a big year for the Flyers, actually, because of the 3 players that they had gotten with Mike Rathje, Peter Forsberg, and Sidney Crosby's buddy, Darian Hatcher. And I'm sure we'll talk about that as well. The Penguins have they're an incredible team. They have 3 players on their team right now with Sidney Crosby, Genny Malkin, and Chris Letang that are going to play for the same team all together for 20 years, which has never been done. You just don't see it. You don't see that kind of thing happen. And you guys have been very well coached. Sully has done an incredible job. And I was actually a huge fan of Dan Bylsma. I wanted the Flyers to look at him before they signed John Tortorella. I'm happy with the move that they made with Torts, but you guys have all around had really good upper management. And that's a big thank you to Mario Lemieux, who was another sensational player. One of the greatest of all time.
Yes. Honestly, Mario Lemieux, the second quickest player to ever make it to the 500 club.
Who was the first? Was it the great
Gretzky.
one? Yeah, the great one.
But with Lemieux, it's also with time missed included. And if you look at the amount of time that he missed versus what he did during his career, had he stayed healthy, he probably would have surpassed Gretzky.
He had a cancer issue, didn't he? Don't quote me
Yes.
on that. Yeah, I think I really remember. I was quite younger then. But yeah, I mean, anybody that can come back from something like that, and obviously, you know my story with my dad, like to be able to come back from that, and obviously with Oscar Lindblom, man, it's just once again, like I go back to it, it's just something to cheer for outside the game. You know, it's just an incredible. It's incredible, and he is one of the greatest of all time, top five in my book.
I'm trying to look here real quick to see when his first retirement was, because
Yeah, I'm sure there's a couple. Because he
um,
actually got to play with Crosby. He was the captain and the GM at the same time. Crosby's first year or two when he had come into the league.
all right, so yeah, Mario Lemieux retired in 2000 for the first time in 1997 amid his cancer battle, and then came back almost 10 years later to play with Sidney Crosby in his
Uh,
rookie year.
yep.
Like, to
They're
think,
still
had
doing it.
looking at the stats that Mario put up during his time, if he wouldn't have had cancer and would have been able to play that extra 8 years.
Surpassed. We'd be looking at, something a lot different now with the Ovechkin chase, I'll tell you that.
Oh yeah. Now now that we got the stats and what's going on with the state of the league now,
Here we
get
go.
back into the thing that what you were looking forward to the most,
It's always fun to do the
the
rival
history of
show.
the Pens versus Rivals.
The rival show. I love it. I love the rival. It's one of my favorite, as I was saying early on in the show. And once again, my man Geoffrey, thanks for having me on to do this with you. It's always a pleasure. Good Pittsburgh fan, good friend, and it's always good to talk sports with you. This is a great rival. It's up there with the Avalanche and the Red Wings. You go back to the big rival with them, the fights that broke out with those guys. It's one of them. It's Flyers Pens. It's my favorite. It's always circled on the calendar, as I'm sure for you in Pittsburgh. It's a game you're gonna watch. You're gonna
Oh
watch
yeah.
that game.
As
It's
long as
so
I'm
much.
not working, you're damn right.
You're damn right. If not, then I'll be right there giving you the updates, talking a little crap, or vice versa. It's a great rival. It goes back. I mean, like the first game that was played, and I believe that you might have it up there. I think 1967. I believe it was. There you go. And look at that, 1-0 win by the Flyers. Now I can't really necessarily even tell you who was part of this team or who was even coaching. It goes way that far back. This is talking about originals. But a 1-0 win to kick it off, the start of a huge rival, and it really escalates. Getting more into what has become of it today, and it's the Battle of PA, man.
To go back to that first game, do you even remember the Spectrum?
Of course I do. I wrote an article
Because
about it for FlyersInsider.com about the closing of the Spectrum and the great things that they had there. I mean, the Broad Street Bullies, the game against the USSR, Pearl Jam closing down the Spectrum, the last show, one of my favorite bands of all time. It was the place to be. The Phantoms winning the Calder Cup, too. Back in '04 with my cousin Tony Rose was on that
oh, I
team.
thought the Spectrum closed a lot longer ago than that. My bad.
No, I believe that they had won at the Spectrum. But regardless of that, you may have me on that one, but and double check that. But even before that, there was another Calder Cup that was the one on that team.
Huh.
That they still had won there, but with Frank the Balawas was on that team actually. So they have two Calder Cups. They have championships. They have the Globetrotters. The Spectrum was the place to be. Incredible. Intense, and everybody says it. Coming to Philadelphia to play at the Spectrum was a place that people did not want to be.
Okay, I stand extremely corrected. The Spectrum did not close until Halloween Day of 2009.
2009 Halloween, and Pearl Jam I think played almost not even a week before that. They were the last show to ever play there. So there it is. And I think Mayor John Street was the one that No, that was when Veterans Stadium closed. We had a couple buildings get knocked around down here in Philly. But yeah, '09. So yeah, 2 Calder Cups were won there.
But to the first meeting, it was a Doug Favell shutout with Bill Sutherland scoring the only your winning goal.
Way before my time, that's for sure. But go Flyers on that one.
Now, those of you watching are going to notice a trend here that would make you think Philadelphia has dominated this rivalry.
This is called justifying the
Until
losses
we get
here,
to the
gentlemen.
until we get to the most important stat.
No, here we go. Sound like
But the all-time matchup record is 184, 119 to 31 in favor of the Flyers. This is including postseason.
this has a lot to do with the '70s. I mean, look at it like this. That the whole '70s, '80s era was just dynamic. Even part of the '90s, you know, and the last 15, 20 years, the Flyers. That's the record I would love to see because that was more relevant with our time too. You know, has the Pittsburgh Penguins have just it's been very competitive. Extremely competitive.
Well, let me see if I can find a record. By the way, most of my research on this rivalry and the records coming from Wikipedia.
Love it.
Because
Well,
at least when it comes to stats like that, Wikipedia does tend to be fairly accurate.
Yeah, no, they're pretty good. I do a lot of like I have my Bleacher Report up, and that's how I'm getting some of the stuff that I've just been checking out, just like some of the numbers. But yeah, I mean, it's a great rival. And are you checking out to see what the number is for last couple years?
Yeah, I'm gonna see if I can find it for the last 10 years.
Might be a little tough to find, but let me ask you a question from a fan standpoint. What's your favorite game that sticks out to you as like watching Flyers Pens? Is there a game that sticks out to you the most?
I don't know. I know my favorite time period of watching was anytime we could get the one up against the dirtiest player in the game, Scott Hartnell.
Get out of here, dude. Scott Hartnell.
Maybe I'm thinking of the wrong
You guys had Darius Kasparaitis, who is the dirtiest ever. He
threw the meanest hits. He might have thrown the meanest hits.
He threw an elbow at Lindros that wasn't even called for. Dirtiest player, Scott. What? There was no player
that time period. Of that time period.
Oh my god, the dirtiest player, and he guys got like Kasparaitis throwing bows at people. Who actually gave Eric Lindros a concussion. I need a clip of that to put on my channel. That was epic. I think what does it for me is the 5 overtime game. You got to go back to. I mean,
oh my god,
Keith Primo wins it in the 5th overtime. I don't even know who your goalie was. I think it was Ron Tugnut. Oh, Brian Boucher was in that for us. Keith Primo, scores the goal. I remember Jim Jackson going nuts. He scores. The Gary Dornhofer Hall of Famer. Thank God it's over. Because it was one of the longest games in history. 1:30. I remember being up watching that with my Uncle Will, who was actually responsible for getting me into hockey. That was just a wild long game. And then obviously the 2012 series, Flyers Pens. Flyers actually win that series, I think 4-2. That was the year of the shift. Claude Giroux just cracks your captain and then opens up with a big, hey, how's your father doing with a goal? And then you have Hartnell who does this, and then he's arguing with the fan in the stands who was dressed like Hulk Hogan. You had one of your guys, Chris. Was it Chris? Would have been Chris, not Chris Neal. It was another one of those dirty players you had that clocked Couturier with his head down. You guys got all the dirty players. Get out of here.
You're saying Chris in that time period. I'm thinking I want to say Kunitz, but I don't.
No, it wasn't Kunitz. I can't remember who.
But he wasn't really hit me as a dirty player.
No. I can't really remember who it was. I was going to say Chris Neal, but I think he was with Ottawa at that time. I trying to remember who it was because then he took a run at Claude Giroux with Claude Giroux's head down. Just type in Couturier hit Penguins Flyers playoffs. He was known for some controversial hits. And then that was also the year that Peter Laviolette and Dan Bosma were freaking out on each other. Just a sensational playoff series. I remember when Adam and I got to talk to Josh Yo, beat writer for The Athletic, and he was on, and we were talking about it. Who is it?
I'm looking at the roster that we had at that year for that series. If you're looking for our biggest enforcers at that point, it would have been either Matt Cook or Craig Adams.
It was, what? No, I don't think it was Matt Cook.
Oh wait, Eric Tangradi.
No, I'm gonna pull it up. I'm gonna pull it up. It's okay. We'll get it figured out. But yeah, that 2012 series was just absolutely incredible. It was probably one of my favorites. But yeah, I'll pull it up. 2012 Penguins series. Let's see.
We had James Neal at the time.
It was James Neal. Yep, thank you. It was James Neal. Dirty player. Dirty. Just dirty.
Oh, and I'm surprised there wasn't more to say about the fact that
he left his feet. He left his feet. And cracked Couturier when he didn't even have the puck. And then headhunted Claude Giroux. You guys got spanked 4-2.
Surprisingly, and then the one player that you're not bringing up, again, one of the top 5 players of all time.
I gotta go probably talk about Sidney Crosby.
And another former Penguin that was on your roster at that time.
Max Talbot.
No.
Who?
Jaromir Jagr.
Oh, Jagr was on. I think so. Jagr was playing.
He played 6 games of the series.
Is this in 2012?
Yeah, and 2012 Eastern Conference quarterfinals.
Yeah. So yeah, great. Well, another one. I mean, it was great. It was great to have. I was talking about more of the rival. I liked Jagr's time here. It was the last time that Claude Giroux had a goal scorer when he was here in Philadelphia. Realistically, like somebody actually passed the puck to, because everybody knows how I feel about that. That's a whole other story for a whole other show. Is that whole debacle? Is like you never got the guy any help, and now he leaves, and now he's like just tearing it up. But yeah, I mean that was just. It was James Neal. I actually looked it up, but Matt Cook was another dirty player. Just full of dirty players. The Penguins are. Get out of here. Talk about Hartnell.
Well, I'm just saying, as a Penguins fan during that era, Hartnell was the player I hated the most.
He was the most antagonistic player for you guys. I mean, he was like, let me go back to something like a Matthew Barnaby, or who was the guy that was on the Rangers for so long? That was another antagonist. I saw Dave Blythe Jr. pop up. Maybe he could probably remind me. Oh man, who was it? Colton Orr was another one. Another guy, I had that was dirty.
For us now, it's Tom Wilson.
Well, I mean, Tom Wilson's actually a great player too. So he can kind of does more than antagonize people. He just beats you up. Dude's huge.
I'm hoping he gets back on the ice here soon, because I drafted him in my fantasy hockey league, and
did you?
Yeah, had him sitting IR the whole year.
Yeah, I know. He was an injury that was coming into the. I think that's a big missing piece for the Washington Capitals. Yes. I think that's a huge missing piece. Sometimes those one injuries are awful. Sean Avery was the guy I was thinking of with the Rangers.
Yeah, yeah, hated him too.
Hated his gods. At least we could agree on something. But yeah, that 2012 matchup for the playoffs was absolutely incredible.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, their season started for Washington not only without Wilson, but they were also missing Alexander Barkov for, I believe.
They were missing players. Yeah, they were missing some players.
So it might not be that surprising that where they are at this point.
Maybe, right.
That was the all-time matchup, including playoffs. Just regular season, 169, 99, and 30.
Yeah, it's fun. It's something to look at. It's something to cheer about. But like I said, in order to keep the rival going, you got to stay competitive. It's just a lot different now. Last 10 years, Penguins have done incredible.
Postseason, it's a lot closer. 21 games for Philly, 20 to Pittsburgh.
And that's the last 10 years, man. It's been so close. Like the Flyers haven't won. And like I mentioned, when we talked to Josh about it, when they lost, he says he was in the locker room and he asked Crosby, Crosby was just so fired up, he'll never lose the game in the playoffs. And I don't think he has. the Penguins, I think, have run it since then, and with that winning a cup in between, that's why this is so close. And you go back to the
Since the 2012 playoffs, the Penguins have won 2 cups.
that's that's exactly what I'm referencing to. Sorry, I didn't give your extra cup there. So you guys beat Detroit, and then you guys won against who?
We beat Detroit in 2009. San Jose was,
Yep, that's it. Yeah,
I believe, the 20. Oh God, who did we beat? Which year was that?
it was
'Cause
San Jose. Yeah, I don't remember what year, but it was San Jose.
San Jose was one of the 2. I can't remember who the other year was.
Got another. Oh God, I just saw Dave Bly's comment. Can't wait for you to put this one up.
Oh God.
Oh God.
Ratko Dudas is another antagonist who played for the Flyers along with Wayne Simmons, both dirty players.
I'll give you the Radko. The Radko, he just could never adjust his game. He just never adjusted his game the way that, to not get thrown. Wayne Simmons was not dirty. Wayne Simmons just beat everybody up. Wayne Simmons was a great player. And a guy that I actually kind of miss on this team. You're paying JVR $75 million to sit in front of the net when you could have played 3/4 less than that and have Wayne Simmons on a team. But I'll give it a Radko point, but no way was Wayne Simmons dirty. But I like your style, Dave Bly. I see that you're a hockey player too. So hockey players unite.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
Yeah. So when they beat San Jose and they beat that Detroit series was pretty awesome too. Like who would have thought back to back?
Yeah.
That was their first cup.
How many times has that happened?
I don't think I've ever seen it happen. Realistically, I don't think I've ever seen it happen.
Oh, God, yeah. Oh, my God. I'm forgetting about that one. I can't believe I forgot that. Okay, so the 2016 Stanley Cup was the Penguins over the Sharks.
Yeah.
The 2017 Stanley Cup was the Penguins over the Predators. And I can't believe I'm forgetting this, especially with how much it's like a core memory for me of being a Crosby fan when he finally had enough of PK Subban and just started smashing his head into the ice.
Yeah, that's not dirty. That's not dirty or anything. He's such a dirty player too.
But coming from
Crosby, your own captain. Your own captain's dirty. He's done shit like that to TK. That's his move. He likes to smash their head. Hey, your Penguins are just a dirty team. I'm getting all fired up now.
Well, you have one historically over the 41 matchups or games that have been played between the two teams postseason. You have the edge by 1.
We have the cups for it.
When it comes to playoff series, the 1989 divisional final, you guys won 4-3. As did you win the first round in 97, 4-1. 2000, you guys won 4-2. It wasn't until 2008 that Pittsburgh got a win, beating you 4-1. 09, which was actually on the way to our Stanley Cup win, we won 4-2.
Mm-hmm. The 2000 was the triple overtime series.
Yes.
I'm sorry, the 5 overtime series. Yeah.
Yeah, that damn game did not end until after midnight.
1:30.
With a 7 o'clock, 1:30.
Yeah, 1:30 in the morning it ended. 5 overtimes, dude, 20 minutes each, plus stoppage. It ended at like 1:30 in the morning. 1:32 a.m. I think it was when the goal was scored. I could, you could fact check me if you want, but I'm telling you right now, it was at like 1:30 in the morning.
Oh, sorry. I was seeing 12:01. That was the time that was the goal scored was scored in the 5th overtime.
That was a long, long game. And then you see it right there when I was telling you, the Flyers win that 2012 series, and then they never beat Crosby again in the playoffs. And more realistically, because of the fact that the Flyers haven't been in the playoffs. They haven't gotten there as much. I mean, look since 2012, 2018, it was every other year that the Flyers would be in the playoffs when you have it was just too inconsistent. Which is why I made the big point about the consistency, to stay competitive, to keep the rival going. I mean, regardless, I think it's always going to be a great rival, but you got to stay competitive as well. And the Flyers are starting to be competitive right now.
We're both way off.
What time did it end?
With Keith Primo scored 7 minutes, 59 left in the fifth overtime on May 4th, 2000. Right? The same. That's the right game?
Yep.
The game started at what, 7?
Yeah.
It did not end until 2:35 a.m.
Oh, wow. I was off. I didn't know it was that long. Damn, it was 3 o'clock in the morning. That's some free hockey right there. You imagine
And
being there for that game? That was in Pittsburgh too.
and to think that I don't know if it was the same back in 2000, but I know at PPG Phoenix Arena now, and for the last couple years of the Civic Arena, they quit selling beer at the end of second intermission.
Oh, I mean, even like yeah, the guys had to like have like pizza. I remember Keith Jones talking about it, who was a former Flyer that used to play on the team, announcer now. Obviously, done some commentary with Jim Jackson. He said that they had to eat like pizza because they had to eat something. But Brian Boucher was dumping ice out of his and water out of his skate from like just being on the ice for so long. I couldn't imagine playing that long. I wouldn't have it in me, but they got through it by another underrated captain here in Philadelphia. But yeah, the series, you see the playoff series here. I mean, it really starts to get good like with that 2000, 2008 and 2008 obviously. That's when you guys started getting real competitive.
Yes. And the only one we didn't mention yet so far was the most recent time we've met each other postseason was 2018 in the first
Yeah.
round, where
Yeah.
Pittsburgh beat Philly 4-2.
We probably shouldn't even been in the playoffs that time, to be honest with you.
I don't know. So every other stat we've shown so far, Philly has the edge in this rivalry, except for the one that matters most.
There it
Stanley Cup
is.
wins.
Yep, Stanley Cups. You know, you guys have done such a great job with bringing in talent. I mean, Sidney Crosby is the greatest #1 overall pick ever. I mean, he's just so good. And people like to talk smack, and obviously, like people from Philadelphia do. I got to watch one of the greatest hockey players in the world, and I'm enjoying every minute of it. Like I respect talent, and you know, obviously spending my time like within the media. Like I just love good talent, and I the day that he retires is it will be sad. You know, the rival will start to slow down, and they're going to need new players to jump in to keep that rival going. Because when we think rivals of Pittsburgh Flyers, especially in our generation, I know we're not too far apart in age, we think that, you know, Crosby, Claude Giroux, you know, Hartnell. Um, yeah, those are the kind of things that you think about. Jake Gensel, Pittsburgh had a bunch of just people that were just annoying in that whole series. A bunch of dirty players. Thanks, Dave.
But I mean, you just got to think like knowing that both teams entered the league at the same year. We were both in the new 6 division for the first few years, and once they started adding even more teams and realigning the divisions, we've never, if I'm mistaken, have never not been in the same division.
We've always been in the same division. Yep, we're one of those teams that have always been within. Yeah, and it makes for a great rival. I mean, this is a rival that's still there. Like I said, we're always circling on the calendar when the Flyers play the Penguins. It's one of the best. That's one of my favorites. It's one of my favorite games to watch. Always, especially being there.
Like, if you want an idea of how like ingrained in the Pittsburgh and Philly end blood it is to hate the other side of the state's team, nothing should say it more than this.
I just want to say not to even bother. There's that happens. Like you have and like the Philly, like the Eagles and Cowboys, another really great rival. Like there's player. I'm not going to Dallas. I'm not going to Philly. I mean, you saw Jason Peters obviously go to Dallas. You saw T.O. go to Dallas, probably in Philly. But the Penguins Flyers rival, I think I've only seen it maybe with Max Talbot, Ruslan Fedotenko, but that was like kind of irrelevant. You don't see it. Yager, yeah, but there was time in between, I believe, from the time that he was with Pittsburgh early on. I think he spent a time like somewhere else, and he was obviously to the later part of his career. But yeah, you see it, but it's.
I mean, it's insane.
Like, could you imagine seeing Malkin coming here in today's? No way. It would never happen. Could you imagine seeing like Claude Giroux go to Pittsburgh? It would have been incredible. I could imagine watching Claude Giroux play with Crosby. Are you kidding me? It would have been sensational. I wish we had a guy like that for Claude. You know how I feel about Claude Giroux's situation, so I can't get into it.
Now, two things I want to point out that are insane to me is talking about Yager. It's insane that it is 2022 and he just officially retired going into this season.
Yeah, and then they broke news not long ago that like the team he owns, he was forced to play. So I think he's playing again.
Well, no, that was the past few seasons. I think this
Okay,
is
all
when
right.
he's finally been able to say, "Okay, I'm done."
And he's like 62. Nah. But he's definitely the oldest. He's got to be the oldest player playing like professional hockey ever. I mean, Gordie Howe, I think, was
52.
52. Yeah. I think Jaromir Jagr's probably right there. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. It's pretty close. Excuse me. Yeah.
Let me check that.
It's quite close.
Yager's
sure.
50, yeah.
Okay, so there, he still has it. Gordie Howe still has it, yeah.
The other thing I want to say that to add even more depth to the Ryan Malone, telling his agent not to even bother fielding any offers from Philly, he won't play there, was the fact that Malone was actually a second generation Penguin. His father, Greg, had played for the team previous. Or was it Carl? I thought it was Greg.
No, Carl Malone was Utah Jazz. I was thinking.
The
mailman.
Shut up,
different color skin.
No, yeah. Ryan's father, Greg Malone, had played for the Penguins previously.
Yeah, so the hate was already indebted in Ryan Malone's. Like they're just all around good players. Like even talking about Ryan Malone, like their role players were ended up being like breakout guys. Like Max Talbot was a huge part of the success of Pittsburgh for their time, and even part of it here. Just those gritty players. Like you had your stars, you had your great goaltending, and then your role players and third and fourth line guys were incredible. You guys were built for the playoffs. You guys were built to win championships.
I mean, look, just going back to some of the names that we've had on our lower lines: Dustin Geoffrey, Mark Letestu, Colby Armstrong, Eric Christensen.
Colby was a big one. Jordan Stahl was a third line guy.
Jordan Stahl.
Colby was huge. I was a big Colby Armstrong. Yeah, Colby Armstrong was awesome.
If I'm not mistaken, when we had him, Derek Brassard was on the lower lines.
Also with good defense too. Yeah, guys like Matt Niskanen. You know, you guys had Matt Niskanen who won a championship. He's got a championship with Washington too. We had him for 1 year, and he played great with Ivan Provorov. Huge fan of Matt Niskanen. He's just enjoying retirement.
Like it's just. Yeah. Yes. Penguins are like when it comes to my sports hierarchy, Penguins are a very close number 2 for me. Because obviously, more often than not, you see me wearing Jets jerseys when I'm
JETS. That's the one thing we do have in common. You know, we're both Jets guys. I'm an Eagles fan, but my other team is the Jets. We talked about this before. I've been a Jets fan since Chad Pennington was drafted. I have an autographed Jonathan Vilman jersey in my closet from the Jets.
I've got.
Yeah.
I don't know which one's more impressive because I've actually got an autographed Michael Vick Jets jersey in my closet.
That's kind of cool too. I mean, the Vilman one probably will because of Vic was that was way towards the end. I love the Chad. I gotta get my hands on the new Chad Pennington jersey actually because I'd rock the shit out of it. I love him, dude. Fresh out of Marshall, number 10, throwing bombs and Santana balls, and who else? Wayne Corbett, tight end. Curtis Martin, he had great defense. Yeah, well, we can talk all day about that stuff. But
was that at the point where Ty Law was in the league for the 2 years that we had him, or?
Yep, Ty Law was playing towards Ty Law was in the league. Yeah, another great Hall. I think if he's not on the Hall of Fame, he definitely should be. But yeah, we'll have to save that conversation for another one. This has been incredible though. The Flyers Penguins rival is just an always good one, and it's always good to do it with you, my man.
Anyways, how much time you got left? Because or do you got to bail out?
Yeah, I was already supposed to be kicking it. I pushed it off a little bit, so I got to rock and roll. I promise you, I do some hockey talk with you. We already did an hour.
Yeah, that dragged on. That went a little bit longer than I planned
All
on it,
good. I love
but
no.
we brought up some good material.
Yeah, as I always try to do for the show, and likewise, it's always good to do a hockey show with you. Um, yeah, man, appreciate it. Send me on my way and plug away, my friend.
All right. Well, to cover hockey with us tonight, again, we've had Frankie James, the host of the Frank the Tank podcast tonight. You want to give them a shout out of where all they can find you on your socials?
Where to start? Obviously, my Twitter handle is in my name at Frankie Stats. Find me on Twitter. It's where I do a lot of my media stuff and post away about the sports. Frank the Tank podcast, Frank the Tank show. You can find me all over any way you can listen to your podcast, Apple, iHeart, YouTube, the Unity Podcast Network, all that good stuff. Give me a follow, and yeah, we'll get you coming on my show sometime, Geoffrey. I don't think I've had you on yet.
I don't think you have.
No, I don't think I have. But the pleasure's been mine, my brother. I'll be sharing the show out, and let me know when you get the audio. I'll send it up.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Appreciate you, Geoffrey. Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. And now I have to have the fun job of going through the NFL. So it's been an interesting week. The playoff bracket is starting to fill. I believe at this juncture we have 6 teams clinched. Hold on. Let me bring it up this way. Because I did not think to look at this before I got going, so I apologize. But yes, we have 2 teams. Only 2 teams out of the AFC have clinched. And we're looking at Buffalo with an 11-3 record and Kansas City with an 11-3 record. Currently sitting with playoff seats or with wild card seats, or at the top of the other 2 divisions, you got the Bengals at 10-4 and the Titans leading the South with a 500 record of 7-7, which would leave the Dolphins, Chargers, and Ravens as the remaining wild cards, with records of 8-6 for the Dolphins and Chargers, and the Ravens would actually be the 5th seed if it ended today with 9-5. Patriots and Jets still alive on the bubble with records of 7-7. And in the NFC, it's starting to clear up a little bit more. 4 playoff spots have already been clinched. The Eagles with a 13-1 record have clinched a wild card spot. The Cowboys with a record of 10-4 have also in the same division have clinched a wild card spot, but realistically, it's probably going to be Eagles clinch the division, Cowboys take the wild card spot. In the West, the 49ers have clinched the division with a record of 10-4, and the Vikings have clinched the division with a record of 11-3. Right now, the NFC South is not looking too hot, with the 6-8 Buccaneers leading the pack, and the other 3 teams still alive with 5-9 records, only a game behind. For the other 2 playoff spots right now, we're looking at the Giants are currently sitting in the 6th seed with 8-5-1. And then the Seahawks and Lions, I'm not exactly sure who would take the tiebreaker on this one for the 7th seed, but they both sit with a 7-7 record. Moving on, as you've seen on the bottom, we've had a lot of big games this week that have gone through, and I just want to go through with the Vote Like Geoffrey segment. Give my calls for each of these games, who I think's taken away. And you know what? I'll actually bring it up and put the parlay together to give you the betting odds if you would bet money line on this entire schedule. DraftKings. Just give me 1 second while this loads. NFL. All right, starting with the Thursday night game. Jaguars at the 6-8 Jaguars at the 7-7 Jets. I still think the Jets are going to get it together and make the playoffs. I think this is the year that we finally show that we can come back together. And even though the Jaguars did have one hell of a game this week, I still not completely sold on them. So we're going to just I'm going to say Jets. Falcons and Ravens. Falcons, I'm not a big fan of that. I think the Ravens take this one. They stick with the favorite. Let me find that game on here. There it is. Moving on to the Lions and Panthers. Jared Goff has been coming alive. Aiden Hutchinson has been showing why he was drafted in the first round. And the Panthers just can't figure out who they want for their Panthers just have not been able to figure it out the past few years. The Lions seem like they're on the verge of doing so. So my vote is sticking with the favorite in this game as well. I think the Lions take it. I got to find this matchup now. We're on Seahawks at Chiefs. Now, at this point, the Chiefs have already clinched their division. And the Seahawks, I believe I said we're still in the Seahawks are playing to stay alive. And I'm going to be honest, Geno Smith has exceeded a lot of expectations this year. It's hard to bet against it. I'm going to roll with the underdog here. I'm going to take a big underdog choice here. I think Seahawks beat the Chiefs. Saints at Browns. Now, on this one, Deshaun Watson, after taking near 2 years off, it looks like he hasn't played in 2 years. If the Browns would bite their pride, eat the bullet, and switch back to Jacoby Brissett, I think this game would go the other direction. But as it stands, the Saints win this one. And I have gone on record quite a few times, guys, saying that I'm looking at the wrong weekend. I've gone on record saying that Cleveland completely screwed themselves with trading for Deshaun Watson. It's starting to show. Looking at his performance the first 2 weeks he's been active. So I don't know what more you want me to say. The 12-1 Texans at the 7-7 Titans. You know, I'm actually going underdog on this one again because of what we just saw this past week. Like, the Texans took it to, the Texans took it to the Kansas City Chiefs. It came to an overtime win for, my opinion, the most overrated player in the league. And in most people's opinion, the greatest quarterback alive today. But it took Pat Mahomes overtime to beat a team that had only won one game all season. I think it might be late in the season when it doesn't really matter, but I think Houston's given that, but I think with all the rookies and new players that Houston brought in this year and how much they've completely flipped the team around, because it's less than half of the players on the team right now were here last year. Or I might be exaggerating, but there are a lot of new faces. And late in the season, Houston takes it to a very competitive matchup with one of the top two teams in the AFC. I think Houston takes the win on this one. Bengals at Patriots. The Super Bowl hangover did hit the Bengals a little bit this year, but nowhere near as bad as it did the guys that beat them. And the Patriots are sitting at 500. I bet the favorite here. Bet the favorite. Cincinnati wins this game, which also, I believe, will clinch the division for them. So there's that to look at. The 8-5-1 Giants at the 11-3 Vikings. The Giants are still in this. They haven't looked that terrible all year, whereas the Vikings, other than Justin Jefferson, have shown some vulnerability. Honestly, I'm giving it to Giants. My bet's on Giants in this one. 11-3 Bills versus 3-11 Bears. Unless Buffalo decides to sit their entire starting lineup, this is a no-brainer, Buffalo. The 7-6-1 Commanders at the 10-4 49ers. Let me double check the standings here again. Yeah. It's at this juncture, it's why am I not finding Washington? Oh. Shouldn't be as hard of a choice as it is, but you would think this would be a hard decision. Sorry, let me reset that. You would think this would be a hard decision. A team that hasn't been the greatest this year versus the team that 4 weeks ago was the Super Bowl favorite, was the favorite for me to win the Super Bowl. Given the Trey Lance injury, putting Garoppolo back where he should have been at the top of that depth chart, and the acquisition of Christian McCaffrey, you would think it would be a lot easier of a decision for the 49ers on this one. However, it did give me pause. That being said, Brock Purdy has shown some great flash in the time that he's been on the field. And honestly, a lot of people saying that he might, because for some reason everyone still wants to rule Jimmy Garoppolo out. I don't know why. But between Purdy and Lance, there's a lot of people saying that Brock Purdy has won the starting job from Trey Lance with his performance the past couple weeks. It's yet to be seen. Either way, I'm still giving this win to the Niners. 13-1 Eagles at the 10-4 Cowboys. This one might get me some flack. This prediction might get me some flack, especially after how dominant Philadelphia has been on here. And to an extent, I really wish Frank had still been on for this discussion, because I would love to just see the reaction I would get from him on this. But I'm going Cowboys. Jalen Hurts, already out for this week, if I'm not mistaken, with a bruised shoulder. And I've honestly been saying all year that the Eagles are dominating, but with their play style, and whatnot, I don't like the modern day trend towards mobile running quarterbacks. I've never have. That's how you shorten your career as a quarterback. Look at Tom Brady. Dude is already the oldest player, oldest quarterback in the past 30 years to play the game. I think he might be pushing the record for oldest player of all time in the league. Why? Because he stays in the pocket. I don't think I need to say anything more. That being said, Jalen Hurts is out for this game. And Dak Prescott, ever since recovering from his broken leg 3 years ago, has shown a vast improvement with his fundamentals in staying in the pocket as a pocket passer. Cowboys take this win. Cowboys all the way. Also, let me adjust that in FanDuel so that it doesn't lose that track. Oh, also, according to FanDuel, I'm surprised, but not New England, dear God, Dallas is actually the favorite to win this game. Who would have thunk it? Next game, 6-8 Raiders at 6-8 Steelers. Now, neither team is really playing for much, which makes you wonder why this is the primetime game for Saturday night. Or wait, is it? Yes, this is the primetime game Saturday night. Obviously, they're flexing most of the games to Saturday because Sunday is Christmas. And we only have 3 games on Christmas. But Christmas Eve, Sunday, the 3:30 or the 8:15 slot on the Eastern Conference time zone. You got the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Raiders. It's in Pittsburgh. However, I'm giving my bet to the Raiders. Josh Jacobs is just too damn good, and he's coming off of a game where he didn't produce quite as much. Usually after a player has a unproductive game, they have a very productive game, if it's somebody of that caliber. And I don't see Pittsburgh being able to stop him. Besides that, Pittsburgh still can't figure out what they're doing at quarterback. I mean, you just saw the controversy this past week with everyone thinking Mason Rudolph was finally going to get the start, which, in my opinion, is the quarterback Pittsburgh should have been playing all year. The way Pittsburgh's offensive line breaks down, breaks down on the edges, you need a good pocket passer. Trubisky is not a pocket passer, and Kenny Pickett sure as hell ain't a pocket passer. The only one you got that is in Pittsburgh that stays in the pocket is Rudolph, and for some reason, Mike Tomlin just ain't giving him the freaking gun. I don't know if this is Tomlin trying to push to screw it, we're going to tank mode, or if he's just too stubborn to admit his mistakes. But that's where I stand on that one. Vote Oakland or vote Vegas. The 6-8 Packers versus the 8-6 Dolphins. I'm betting Green Bay. I think with the performance against the Rams, they're going to have the confidence coming in. I think Aaron Rodgers wants to at least have a shot at turning this around. Maybe making a playoff shot. I don't know. The dude's carried the team on his back for the past years. You never bet against the great one. So I'm going Green Bay. 4-10 Broncos at 4-10. 4.5. Wow. Yeah, let me fix that. Typoed that one. 4-10 Broncos at 4-10 Rams. Both teams, unless Russell Wilson is back, which I don't believe I've heard, the Broncos and Rams are both on backup quarterbacks. However, the Rams haven't looked completely atrocious under Baker Mayfield. I think I put my money on the Rams. Uh, 6-8 Buccaneers at 4-10 Cardinals. Once again, never bet against a great one. And heavy favorite also, bet Tampa Bay. And that puts us through the Sunday night games. Now it's time for the Boxing Day matchup. To round this out, the 8-6 Chargers at the 4-9-1 Colts. No contest, Chargers. How is there 15? There should be 16. I'm missing one here. Oh, God. Okay, I forgot to hit that one. We're good. Now, bet the schedule on this one. putting a $10 bet would net. Yeah. I think this might be the most lopsided my odds have been all year. A $10 bet would pay out $241,178.32 at an odds of 2,411,683. Either way, I think at this point we're going to call it a night because I don't like talking by myself, and unfortunately, with Frank having another show to get to, I've been yeah. So this is Geoffrey at TJE Joker on Twitter, at Mooncutters on Twitter, of course. If you want to help the show grow and help get me more time to devote to giving you guys the best sports talk possible, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Running Force Productions. Let me get that up for you. Where's my overlays? Overlays. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Running Force Productions. We will be getting more up tune on Spotify here in the near future because Wayward Guns Rewatch is getting ready to get launched on there. Also want to give a heads up. We did not do anything we're not doing anything this week with it because Kate still is getting the last of her stuff after the move taken care of. But to make up for the fact that it's been 3 weeks without an episode on Wayward Guns, by the time everything's settled, right in time as a post-Christmas gift or whatnot, we will be doing a double dose. Probably back-to-back. If I'm not mistaken with what she wanted to do, we're going to have back-to-back nights. So, oh boy, that's going to be fun. Otherwise, I will catch you at some point next week with the Christmas weekend matchups. Go teams. Oh, wait, one more comment at the end here. Frankie James, of course, my guest from the night. Good show, brother. Yes, it was. It was a great having you on, my friend. Otherwise, though, I will get more with you guys next week. Keep track of the Twitter and YouTube channel to figure out what time the next episode's happening. This is Geoffrey signing off.